after we go through, there's not much left here to talk about or draw, and then we'll do a quick clinical correlation. You get your groups, and then we'll go to the lab and work on dermatomes. Okay? As best we can. Okay, so like I said, lots of detail. So what I'm going to say, here's my representation again. This is my frontal section, and bless you. And I'm going to draw my midline. That way I know the dots. And all we're going to do is just quickly go through and review the DCML tract. Again, like I said, I like repetition. It helps me learn. And let's label. So everybody knows this is my thalamus, right? Midbrain, pons, medulla, and here's my spinal cord. And I'm going to give this spinal cord a level right here. I'm going to say at this arrow, at this point right here, this is going to be T6. And hopefully everybody knows why I'm doing that. Okay, so this is T6 level of the spinal cord. Okay? So, below the level of T6, I have sitting here in the dorsal root ganglia. Oh, and let's label, this is going to be the, this is the right side of the body, and then this is the left side of the body. Below the level T6, here in my dorsal root ganglia, I have my pseudounipolar first order neuron, and it is picking up DCML information, which is below the level of T6. You can think lower extremity, fine touch, vibration, and proprioception. Right? And we know that axons coming off of that, well, you can label it, this is my first order neuron. Axons coming off of the first order neuron below the level of T6 come in and then immediately travel up something. Does anybody remember what it travels up? Below the level T6, fasciculus gracilis comes in, populates medially, and then goes straight on up here at the level of the caudal medulla and synapses with its nucleus. Okay, so this is, I'll label this as fasciculus gracilis. All right. Above the level of T6, we have sitting here in our dorsal root ganglia, our first order neuron that is going to get information from essentially upper extremity, fine touch, vibration, and proprioception. Okay. Axons coming out of that first order neuron. Axons coming out of that first order neuron enter the spinal cord and immediately travel up through the fasciculus cuneatus, at the level of the caudal medulla. Fasciculus gracilis synapses with its nucleus gracilis, and fasciculus cuneatus synapses with its nucleus in the caudal medulla, nucleus cuneatus. So this is nucleus gracilis, and this is nucleus cuneatus. That's your second order neuron. And your second order neuron goes and decussates, so it sends out axons to the opposite side. those axons decusate, and when they decusate, they have a special name. Does anybody remember the special name of the axons as they decusate? Yeah, those are the internal arcuate, A-R-C-U-A-T-E fibers. Okay, so your internal arcuate fibers are the axons of the second order neurons as they cross over, and then they travel up this pathway known as the medial lemniscus combined. So it's a combined cuneatus and gracilis together. So this right here, these axons traveling up, are known as the medial lemniscus. Okay. Those axons travel all the way up to the level of the thalamus. They synapse with the third order neuron that is housed in the VPL region, or the ventroposterior lateral region of the thalamus. So here's your third order in the VPL of the thalamus. And those third order neurons send out axons that synapse with the somatosensory cortex. That's it all put together in one big piece, just looking at the DCML by itself. Questions? Does anyone have any questions about that? So all it is, I went through it, each individual section, and now I'm just drawing the whole thing all on one big section. Okay. So again, lower extremity, below the level of T6, fine touch vibration proprioception, comes in through the first order neuron, travels immediately up through the vesiculus gracilis, synapses at the level of the caudal medulla with the nucleus gracilis. Information, upper extremity information, above the level of T6, fine touch vibration proprioception, coming in through the first order neuron, all the way up the axons go to the level of the caudal medulla to synapse with the nucleus cuneatus. Axons from these second order neurons then decusate, called internal arcuate fibers, and then travel up through this tract known as the medial lemniscus. Medial lemniscus synapses in the area of the VPL of the thalamus with the third order neuron that sends out axons to the somatosensory cortex. And that's how the information gets there. Questions? We did? Yes?
This is happening bilaterally, but
this is happening bilaterally.
The left and right sides don't interact at all.
No. No. So what happens is the information is happening on the other side, so you'd come in and then go up, and then you'd cross over here and then go up and then go that way. Okay, so everything's bilateral. I'm just trying to make it super simple. Okay, let's look at STP. Like I said, STP is a lot simpler. So we have this is my spinal cord cross section right here, down below, and this is my dorsal root ganglia as a landmark. Dorsal. Okay, and on the same picture with my spinal cord cross section, I have my brain stem. Okay, this is continuing up the spinal cord here. So this is going to be my medulla. This is going to be my pons. Here's my midbrain with my third cranial nerve and my cerebral aqueduct. So just kind of labeling things to see where we are. We're going to start down here at the level of the spinal cord for this one. I have my first order neuron cell body here in the dorsal root ganglia. Dendrites coming out are going to receive information that travels through the spinothalamic tract, which is crude touch, pain and temperature. Okay. Throughout the entire body. Okay. STT information. This is STT. Crude touch, pain, and temperature. Comes in through this first order neuron. Okay, comes in through the first order neuron. And then axons from this first order neuron come in and they synapse immediately in the dorsal gray horn. Okay. Now let's go ahead and I had drawn this in previously to differentiate between the lateral and anterior compartments of the spinal cord. And if you remember that spinal cord, or the name of the tract that the STT travels up, is the spinothalamic tract, and it resides in this region, so it's the anterolateral region of the spinal cord, and that's going to be bilateral. So I'm going to cross over from the lateral into the anterior portions of the spinal cord. And this is going to be my spinothalamic tract. That's the spinothalamic tract right there. Okay, I'm going to differentiate this with a little. So, you need to know that the second order neuron resides here in the dorsal gray horn. I'll make it a little bit different blue color. This is going to be your second order neuron. And the area of the dorsal gray horn where this second order neuron resides that's specific for the STT has a special name, and I'm going to demarcate it there. It's like gray dots. And the special name for the area of the second order neuron for this system is called substantia, I'm going to put it, gelatinosa. So SUB stance, STANCIA, gelatinosa. And I don't know why I remember that as something that Hermione Granger would say, like substantia gelatinosa, right? That's what she would say. Another way to remember it is you can say substance gelatin, osa. Okay. And that's nothing more than the area, I'll even write that down, so that's the area for second order neuron. Okay, so second order neuron resides in an area known as the substantia gelatinosa, and since it's the second order neuron, we know it's going to decussate, right? So the axons from the second order neuron, they're going to decussate, and they're specifically going to go contralaterally and travel straight up through the spinothalamic tract. Okay, so this is going to be your spinothalamic tract. So you can imagine this is just a continuation going all the way up. It's going to travel all the way up through the spinal cord. Those axons travel and create the spinothalamic tract. That tract is. Okay. Questions about that? Yes.
Assuming that happens on the exact opposite side, but why doesn't it just the second neuron just go straight down? Why is it going across?
It decussates because it's a second order neuron. Okay, second order neurons usually decussate. Okay? So up in the DCML system, the second order neuron resides in the medulla, right? And once that second order neuron goes, the axons go, they decussate. Okay, so here the second order neuron resides in the level of the spinal cord, and it decussates. Does everybody see that? Questions about that? Is that? Yes, Simon.
So when you decussates, it goes like anterior opposite side?
Correct. Yes, it goes contralateral. It goes anterior opposite side. There's one more point I need to make, but I'm just making sure that everybody sees this. You see what happened? So SCT information comes in, synapses immediately, the dorsal gray horn, the area substantially gelatinosa, and crosses over to the opposite side, and then travels up through that spinal thalamic tract. You guys know? Say that slower?
Yeah.
Yeah. Information coming in from the environment, from the first order neuron, for the SCT system. That first order neuron, the axon, synapse immediately in the dorsal gray horn. And they synapse in a special space known as the substantia gelatinosa. Substantia gelatinosa is where those second order neurons live in the system. Second order neuron axons decussate to the opposite side and then travel up through that spinal thalamic tract. Right, or create the spinal thalamic tract area as they travel on. Okay, so all these axons always exist. It's just the signal transmission going through the neuron to the next. Does that help? Is that good? Okay. Now, one more thing that I didn't, like I said, with the internal arcuate fibers in the DCML system, when things decusate, they have a special name. The area where this decusates right here is known as the anterior, because it's anterior, white, because it's axons, commissure, C-O-M-M-I-S-S-U-R-E. So the anterior, because it's anterior ventral, white, because as those axons cross through all that gray matter, you're going to see the white coming through. And commissure is just decussation.
Commissure.
Yes, called anterior white commissure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So like I said, the SCT system's pretty simple. Where these axons, these are second order axons traveling up through the SCT. They're going to come all the way up. They're going to travel through the medulla, the pons, and the midbrain, and then just go all the way up to the thalamus. We'll look at the thalamus piece here in a minute. Okay? So everybody got that part? Then when we look, it's the same as before. When we look at the third order neuron, for the SCT system, again, is going to exist in the VPL of the thalamus. So we've already labeled this one time. Let's go ahead and do it again. So this is going to be, what are these spaces filled with CSF? Yeah, so lateral and third ventricle, and here's my cerebral aqueduct. Okay, this is going to be my thalamus. Here, parathalami, thalamus. Okay, these other nuclei, specific nuclei that are in the area, are also, these are part of the basal ganglia system. Here's my midbrain. This is just a continuation from below. And again, this is cranial nerve number 3. Okay, so just a continuation from below. And what we saw a minute ago, I was using this color. No, where's my color? No idea. Okay. Coming on up. Here we have axons traveling through the midbrain, and they're going to synapse here with that third order neuron. Okay, that third order neuron from the DCML system, from the SCT system, is going to reside in the ventroposterior lateral portion of the thalamus again, so no different than DCML. So SCT and DCML both have third order neurons that live in the in the VPL. In the VPL of the thalamus. And again, those third order neurons are going to send out an axon that travels through this special space that I talked about. It comes on up and synapses in the somatosensory cortex. And previously, talked about this space here. This is your internal capsule, shown in orange. That's your internal capsule. Internal capsule is nothing more than that space that exists between the basal ganglia, thalamus, and ventricle, where those third order neuronal axons travel through on their way to the somatosensory cortex. Yes, Mikey?
I guess my only question is where the decutation is actually happening compared to the DCML. Is it just a lot sooner than the other two?
So yeah, we'll look at that here in a minute, but the DCML is going to synapse or decusate at the level of the caudal medulla. STT is going to decusate at the level of the spinal cord where it enters. Okay, that's the one big difference that you're going to see. I'm not going to go more than that. Questions about that? Does everybody see? Very similar but different in a few ways. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and look at the overview, the whole spinothalamic tract, one more time so that you can get the big picture. And STT, I think, is relatively easy. Again, here's my frontal section with my thalamus, midbrain, pons, medulla. I'm just going to put in my midbrain so you see when things cross. Midbrain. Put in my midline. See when things cross over. Okay. And here, somewhere, there's first order neuronal cell body in the dorsal root ganglia, perceiving information about crude touch. So all STT stuff. So it's crude touch, pain, and temperature coming in. Axons from this first order neuron come in synapse with the second order neuron immediately in the dorsal gray horn. Okay. The second order neurons reside in the space known as substantia gelatinosa. Those second order neurons send out axons that cross over immediately in the spinal cord and travel all the way up to the VPL of the thalamus, synapse with the third order neuron that sends out axons that synapse in the somatosensory cortex. Okay. So here's your second order. Okay, and here's your the VPL. And that's the whole system, just looking at it in general. Again, this happens bilaterally. Big difference between STT and DCML is STT decusates immediately. DCML comes in, goes up the spinal cord, and decusates at the level of the caudal medulla. Okay, that's one big difference between the pathways. Questions? That's the whole thing for the somatosensation that you need to know. This is going to be super important stuff. We'll do a little clinical correlation too. But, all right, everybody got that? Let's look at what's next. And the last little bit is just going to be labeling upper extremity and lower extremity dermatomes. Does anybody know what dermatomes are? Have you heard the word dermatomal pattern before? Yes. Dermatomes, yeah. So essentially, dermatomes are going to be something that you'd want to test if you're looking for the presence of a nerve root injury. Okay. Here in this program, they have spaces that we're going to work on today where they want you to test to see if the dermatome is intact. In other words, is that sensory root intact for that particular area? And for us, for our program, they want you to know that this area of the arm represents C5. Okay, what's highlighted in blue there is C5. And the exact spot they would like you to test for the integrity of C5 is right here. Okay, a lateral deltoid insertion, essentially. Moving on down, underneath C5, they go in order. So then this area here, I'm in green, represents C6. And we're gonna.
Can you make that darker green?
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah.
This is C6. Okay. All the way down here. Okay, that's C6. And then the exact spot where they'd like you to test for the integrity of C6 is going to be here. Shown in purple is going to be C7. Okay, the tip of the middle finger is going to be C7 testing site. And then C8. Let's go ahead and make C8 brown. So here's going to be C8. And the testing site for C8 is going to be here. And then the last one is T1. T1 is here, and the testing site is medial elbow, right there. Okay, so essentially, all these areas that are shaded are innervated by the nerves coming out at that level. Okay, if you have a person who is insensate in any one of these areas, and it correlates with something known as myotomes and reflexes, then you can conclude that that person has a nerve root problem. We'll talk about a little bit more about what that means in a minute. Ben?
2 questions. First,
Yeah.
the last one that you drew, was that T1, you said?
T1, yeah, I didn't label it. Thank you. Yep, they just go in order.
The other thing is, you said C5, the specific spot is at the lateral delta insertion.
Yeah.
Are there like other specific, like other locations?
Okay, so yeah, all these areas that I can't be that specific. So essentially where you're seeing the stars is where they want you to test in the program to start with. Kind of the idea, what you're going to learn is if the person doesn't have sensation in that area, you need to test 3 to 5 other areas in that dermatome itself.
Okay.
Is that?
So there's no specific anatomical landmark for all of the spots? It's just that
Yeah, it's on the top. We'll get to there. We'll get there in a minute when we get to lab. I'll pull up the chart so you can see the exact wording of what they want you to do for this particular program. Okay? You're welcome. Anybody else? Have you been exposed to the concept of dermatomes before?
Yes.
Okay. And these are the dermatomes they want you to know for our program. And then the only other thing we have to do is the lower extremity dermatomes. Okay. Kind of the same thing. Very straightforward. Looking at this zebra man. can see. I'll start out with, so we don't usually test SL1. When you're going to do you'll learn how to do an Asia, which is a special test for spinal cord populations next year. But for this year, we don't go into L1 territory. We're just going to talk about L2, and L2 is shown here in blue. Okay, L2. The specific site is here.
Does that go to the opposite side too, or?
So there's it's a division, right? So it's bilateral. Okay, there would be one on the opposite side. So this also represents L2 region for the opposite side. So L2 on this side is just here. Okay. L3 is going to be here. And the specific test site for L3 is here. That's L3. L4. You said you wanted dark green. Where's my dark green? There it is. Okay. L4 comes here. It's going to be L4. And the site they want you to test for L4 is here. Essentially medial L's. L5 is going to be this area here. And you're specifically testing here. And then S1 is lateral foot. Lateral foot, you are testing here. We'll talk more about how to test and what to do if somebody has a problem in lab. Questions? Did you have a question, Paul? Okay, hopefully that part's pretty straightforward, but lots of information, lots of details.